Hey, welcome everybody to Spirituality Adventures. We're glad you're tuning into this episode. We are a viewer and listener supported podcast, so we really appreciate you listening, watching on YouTube. We really encourage you to subscribe to whatever platform you're using. If you're on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, or if you're on Apple or however you listen to a podcast, be sure and subscribe. We greatly appreciate it. Also, make comments if you like it and share it if you like it. We really need people to make comments and share the episodes that you like. And then also, if you're not already a supporter, we really would encourage you to go to spiritualityadventures.com and you can pick a tier, and we have bonus content for every type of giver. This is a nonprofit, so they're tax-deductible donations, but we do provide bonus content for those who are supporters. So be a part of the team, help support Spirituality Adventures. And we're so glad you're tuning in. Welcome, everybody, to Spirituality Adventures. We're so glad you're tuning into this episode. And today, I am excited to introduce you to Evelyne Keomian. Evelyne and I have only recently met.
Yeah.
I went to what's called the General Assembly, which is basically the national conference for the denomination Disciples of Christ. And they had their national convention in Louisville, Kentucky back in July of 2023. And I met a lady named Amma. How do you say her last name?
Zena.
Zena?
Yeah.
Okay, Amma Zena. And what was funny was this was Disciples of Christ is kind of a mainline, more progressive denomination in America. So it's an older denomination starting in the 1800s. And the music that they had for the national conference was led by an African-American guy who brought together an incredible team of musicians and all that kind of stuff. And they do black gospel and they do contemporary secular, but they would also throw in some contemporary worship. And one night after the main session, which is this is fairly reserved group. This isn't like a charismatic or Pentecostal gathering of people, but they started doing a couple of contemporary worship songs at the end of one of the meetings, kind of after they dismissed. And I see this lady down at the front with blonde hair, like a mosh pit, jumping up and down. And
that's very in character.
It was the most energy it was a great conference. But I thought, hey, look there, I'm gonna have to go find this person who's trying to lead the mosh pit at the Disciples. And it was Amma. And Amma is a pastor of a Disciples of Christ church in San Francisco. I'm not sure. What's the name of the church?
So this is Woodside Village Church. And the funny thing about this village, Woodside, is that even people on the San Francisco Bay Area and Peninsula don't even know this place exists. But it's this little village in the middle of the Silicon Valley, like literally on the heart of it. And it has one church, and it's a Disciple of Christ denominational church, and it's called Woodside Village Church.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So I met Amma. We hung out a little bit, kind of got to know her and her world and what's going on.
Yep.
And then she's like, "You need to meet Evelyne," And so I was like, "Okay." So we connected, had a Zoom conversation, and I got so fascinated with the work that you are doing.
Thank you.
So I'm excited to have Evelyne Keomian with us today. And so let's first start, Evelyne, with some of your origin story. Where were you born? Where did you grow up? What was your family like? And what was your faith tradition like?
Wow. There was the Big Bang Theory. No, thank you. Hi, everybody. It's such an honor to be here. And to have two folks gather in, what was the place the conference was at? It
was in Louisville, Kentucky.
In Kentucky, see, right. I can't even pronounce this place's name, and be talking about me. I'm just like, wait, what?
Oh, I know. The world shrinks sometimes, doesn't it?
Exactly. I mean, the world is our oyster, isn't it? So yeah, so I'm Evelyne Keomian, and you talk Keomian. What's the hardest thing that you have to say today? And I was born in a tiny little village-like town called Séguéla in a country called Côte d'Ivoire or Ivory Coast. And that's on the west coast of Africa. I'm girl number six, child number seven. So I grew up in a very busy home. My dad was a vet. My mom stayed at home to make sure that somebody was really whipping the kids because my dad was too tired when he came from work to do that. So I kept my mom employed. If you stay home to be able to make sure that you can whip a child and then you have an Evelyne, you get a job because every day she'll make sure she gives you a good reason why. And so, yeah, I grew up with sisters and one brother. And so there was a lot of girls, energy and activity going on in the home. So I basically was a tomboy because I was like, I don't want to have boyfriend problems. I'm not interested in the cramps. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut my hair and I'm going to wear shorts and I'm going to just climb walls and trees anytime I can. So that's kind of how I grew up. My dad was not a Christian. In fact, he believed in something completely different, which we later learned was actually a sect. But for what it's worth, he had his spiritual practice set every morning. He'll go into his little prayer room and just go there and meditate. And then my mother, she actually had an interesting story. She is a child, like the only child of her mother, which for an African mother is like, oh my God, like my mom had seven kids. That was like the smallest number, right? So for her to be the only child and my grandmother couldn't conceive, was very prayerful. She was a prayer woman. Like everybody knew that about her in the village. If you met anybody that talked to you about my grandmother, one of the first things they will say was that she will pray and worship all the time. And then the second thing they will say was that she had a very horrible voice while singing her worship song, which she very generously passed down to every single one of us. So we're thank you, grandmother. I cannot sing thanks to you, but the Holy Spirit is still working on it. So that's kind of how I grew up. But my mom, even though she came from that background, she wasn't really into a church thing. In fact, she believed in, African traditions and sacrifices and all the things that she grew up with in the village. So even though her mother wasn't partaking growing up, she was partaking in these things. And so she felt the need to keep it as a tradition keeper. So that's kind of like some of the things that I grew up in. I remember going to a Catholic church for a few reasons. We were really poor growing up. We were okay, but then there was a crisis at some point, and we started eating like one meal a day instead of two meals a day. And then if you weren't home, which I wasn't very often, my mom would donate your one meal a day to a poor child, which I was like, have you looked at your own home? We're the poor folks. But by the time I'll come back, my meal will be donated. So I often end up at the Catholic church so that I can just eat the crackers that they had. I know it's called Keomian, but when you're 8 and hungry, it's just a cracker and drink the juice. So this is how I landed in church, just getting in to eat the crackers. So this is how I grew up.
Wow. So you had some type of a spiritual influence in your family, but not necessarily Christian. Is that right?
Nope. Spirituality was very much present, but it definitely was not Christianity, to be very frank.
Yeah. And help me out. Was the village that you're from, was it close to the coast or more inland?
We were very inland. So we're from the west part of the country, which kind of interestingly looks a little bit like California, right? So it has the forest, it has the rivers running. So we used to grow a lot of our things in the backyard. So we'll grow our own food. There were trees everywhere I could remember. We ate everything from the tree, from avocado to papaya to mango, just all that kind of thing. Yeah.
And would your family have been, if your dad was a veterinarian, is that what you said?
Yeah. Yes, he was.
Would your family have been more of a wealthy family from this village or middle?
Yes.
Is there? I don't know how it works in the culture in the village you grew up in. Was there people who were better off than others, and would you guys have been? Where would you have been on the economic scale in your village? I'm curious about that.
This is interesting. So I oftentimes tell people I didn't know that I was poor until I moved over, until I moved away, and then I moved to America. Then I was like, oh, I did grow up in poverty, but to our standard, and up until so this area of the country is bordered with Liberia, right? You're about to learn a lot. And so up until the war started in Liberia, the civil war in Liberia happened, up until then, we were actually considered the rich folks of town. And so, like, even when we had one meal a day, like, we had a cooked meal that had meat in it, that had tomatoes and oils, and half of the village didn't have that. And folks used to come to our house to eat. We also had one TV, which nobody else did. So they used to come to our house to watch TV. So we were the hottest thing in town, right? Wow. And we lived in our own home. Like, my dad built a house, and the girls had their own room and the boys had their own room. And so all of this truly, we were the kids that folks talked about, us and maybe two other families growing up, right? And then when the war happened in Liberia, this town and village and all the villages that were surrounding became the place where the UN will post their officers. And so then we started seeing folks who had cars to drive to go to work. Because before then, my dad had a motorbike, and that was like the thing, right? So now we had folks that had cars to go to work, and now we had folks that would go out to eat at things called restaurants and stuff. So that opened up a new level of income. But before that happened, we were the rich folks in town. People came to our place to seek for food.
So interesting. The country in Africa I've visited the most is Ethiopia, and I've been out into the villages, there that have no running water, no electricity, holes in the ground for the bathrooms and dirt floors usually, and grass huts. I mean, the whole. But some of the happiest, most joyful people I'd ever met. So you had a few modern conveniences. You actually had plumbing and
we did,
and a TV. And,
we did, and that's because Dad built a home.
One good healthy meal a day at least, and you were generous and helped others as well in the community. And
we did, but the interesting thing was that literally across the street from us was the homes that you're just talking about, right? So we had a brick home with a roof over our head, and we could hear the rain. And then right across the street were the mud houses with, the toilet that was like way far there, and sometimes they didn't even have it. And so, and my dad kind of liked it because he grew up like that. So how sometimes folks will tell their kids, you don't know how I grew up. So for my dad, it wasn't, and my mom too, they grew up in the village, right? They didn't have a brick home. And so to them, they have built this for us, but the kids from across the street was coming over here to eat. So you very quickly was reminded of what life is and what life could have been like, having it been for mom and dad doing what they did.
Yeah. And you have 6 other siblings?
Yep.
And what order were you? What birth order?
I'm the last child.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which then equates to the most beat up child. Yeah.
Whom?
Everybody's your parent, the neighbors, everybody who's a minute older than you are is in charge of raising you and turning you into a good person.
So in your culture, is the oldest the most spoiled or the youngest the most spoiled?
Supposedly it is the youngest, but then the oldest one don't like it. And then I also wasn't like a kind, nice, gentle, sitting around and being cute kind of youngest. So I ended up not being all that spoiled.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah. My three younger sisters think I'm the spoiled one.
I agree with them.
Yeah, right. Yeah. They weren't old enough to, to realize the spankings I got from my dad, right?
Exactly. You're like, by the time you guys came around, there were new rules in the country.
Yeah.
You don't know that.
Dad stopped spanking when his daughters came along, It's
You're
like,
like, when did that happen?
yeah.
How did you all got converted over
I
here?
never got a timeout in my whole life.
Something?
I just got
Oh,
spanked.
folks like, oh, I'm going to timeout. I'm like, wow, I wonder what that feels like.
Oh my. All right.
I promise you, we should put ourselves on a timeout to just to feel the feeling because we just don't know it. It's
Yeah.
like if it was bad, you were just smacked. That's it.
That's what I call meditation today, but anyway.
See,
I
this
put
is this is why it's taking us.
time.
This is why it's taking us so long to really practice meditation and falling into the habit because we were not put on a timeout.
Right. Exactly. All right. So I am fascinated with the work that you do with your nonprofit, and then you've got a documentary out on your life that's going around at film festivals right now. So I want to get to that, but before, get us from the Ivory Coast to America. How did that happen?
Oh gosh, I thought we only have 30 minutes. Can we do this in 3 days? It would be awesome. Yeah, so I grew up and so the war started and then the UN agencies, like I think they're called HSRAP or something, they came around to town, right? And um, so growing up, at some point, my dad, I'm sure, believed in girls' education and putting his girls in school, very, on his own will, because a few of my older sisters got put into schools, right? So my dad, when he was alive, he used to say, I put everybody into first grade. And I'll say, excuse me, not everybody. Because by the time I came around, he was really engraved into the cultural beliefs that girls are somehow going to get pregnant. They need to get married anyway. So we should train them from that versus sending them to school. So I used to sneak myself into classrooms and we had one TV and I used to watch things on TV and go, oh my God, if I could read. If I could write and read, like this will be just a breaking point. Like somehow I was like, I will make it so big if I could read and write. And so when the UN folks came about, I was like, oh, there's a different life than this. And so growing up, I just kind of always wanted something different. So I sneaked myself into classrooms. I was the shame of the village. Like the teacher, right, which will use the $1 fee to get their salary paid, will say, Evelyne, Keomian, you're not enrolled, get out of the classroom or whatever. And I'd be like, yeah, you try to get me out of here. Because I just really wanted to read and write. And finally got pregnant at age 16 and everybody was like, great, she's not going to amount to anything. And also living in a small town, like everybody knows what's going on. But I've just always felt like, I can do a bigger thing. And I just keep pursuing that. And I eventually moved to the capital of the country, which is Abidjan, and established myself and got, started my own business.
Moved there on your own kind of a thing?
Yeah. Well, one of my sisters is kind of went there to seek to pursue her education. So she rented like a little studio. So we all moved there with her. It was like our ticket.
You were like a single mom when you moved to the big city, so to speak?
Yeah. I moved myself to the big city with a tiny little, I think 18-month-old baby at a time.
Wow.
I know, right? Yeah, you're going to find out. Don't let Evelyne take your decisions. But I moved there with this little baby who was the cutest thing that you could ever put your eyes on, but was completely a terror. So my sisters are like, we live in this one little studio, all of us with this baby that is literally going through people's things and destroying it. We call it curiosity nowadays. It was very curious. So we very quickly moving into our own studio that was even smaller than where we were with my sisters. And I found out, I was like, oh, you are a cute little terror, my child. But from there on, I just started building a life of like, where can I go to get a better life? And I think my sisters all did, because eventually one of my sisters moved to England. I went there to visit her. I went in December. It wasn't a good idea. I quickly came back and I kept just saving money to see where I could go next. And I've just always wanted to come to America because, so if you know anything about African women's hair, we have Afro. And as a hairdresser, it's hard to deal with other folks' hair. It's hard to deal with my own hair. But every time I watch an American movie, these women had impeccable hair. So I thought if I could go to America, I will figure out the whole hair thing and I would be the most famous person on earth. So I started seeking ways to come to America. And finally, in 2005, I found my way to immigrate to America. So I came.
How old were you?
I was, let's see, I was 24, 26 years old. Let's see. Yeah.
And you had, how old were your kids then at this point?
So I left my son with my sister for 2 years. And when he moved here, he was 10.
Okay.
Yeah, when we were able to reunite after immigration policy paperwork.
So
and
you have one.
Yeah, I have one. Yep.
All right. Wow. And it was the hair that drew you.
The hair. I just really just wanted to have my hair look like their hair. I wanted to figure out how to do it so I can do it for everybody else. I said, hey, if we can do our hair like this, life will just be good.
And then when you got here, did you find out that it was extensions and weaves and wigs and?
All right, so I got to share this story with you. You are going to on this part.
Know a little bit about.
Yeah, so I get a visa, right? I'm going to go to America and I'm going to fix hair. And one of my older sister, Melanie, were like, "Oh my God, we need to go to the cyber coffee or cafe or whatever they call them to find Evelyne a ticket." Because she was starting to learn how to do that, find people ticket online in the beginning of internet. So we looked this up and she's like, well, if you want to do hair, you need to go to New York. But the thing is, Evelyne doesn't want to be where it snows. I mean, I'm from Cote d'Ivoire, like, come on. So New York is out of the question. So we're looking at this and she's like, oh, well, you should go to Los Angeles. I mean, duh, like this is where people go. So we look at this and the ticket price was kind of expensive. And then right underneath of it, there's another red dot right underneath. And the ticket to this thing is literally $500 cheaper. And this happened to be San Francisco. So she goes, well, I'm not sure how much hair doing is going on in San Francisco, but if you land here, you can catch the bus probably for an hour and go over there. And so that was the plan. I was coming to land here because it was $500 cheaper. And I had this $500 in my pocket. That's the only thing I had landing here. And I was going to catch the bus for 30 minutes and go to Los Angeles because it looked so close on the map.
So you landed in which airport?
SFO. I landed in San Francisco, only to realize that LA was not 30 minutes away. It wasn't a $20 bus ride.
Yep.
And yes, everybody else was wearing wigs and weaves, and it was not their hair. What a disappointment. What a disappointment. It really was.
But how wonderful. That's one of the things I love about African-American hair, women's hair, is all the creativity. It's like a creative art project, you know. It
really just is. It really just is, like for ourselves and for our sisters and everybody else out there. And I landed in SFO, ended up doing hair for a little bit, actually, in Oakland, California. I used to work out of other African women's salon. And they pretty quickly realized, because what happens is when immigrants, especially women, when they come here, doing hair is one of the things that they very quickly can learn so that they can get themselves occupied. But what these women realized was that I wasn't learning how to do hair because I was in America. I knew how to do hair. I was gifted at this thing. So I became a hot little thing. Yeah, I was, because people were like, can you do my hair? Can you do my hair? So
Yeah, yeah.
I pretty quickly got into it, and again realized that it just wasn't different than what I was already doing in my home country. So that was kind of funny.
So, what about your faith journey? Let's work our way. You're in America. How did your faith journey play into as we move closer to the work that you do with your nonprofit and the documentary that's out on your life right now, running through film festivals? Help us to how did your faith play a role in all of this?
So again, back to me going to Catholic church to just eat the crackers and drink the juice that was there at the time. I think when I was 9 or 11 years old, um, the priests were probably like, you've had too many free food here. You should play Mary's mother in the Christmas pageant. That didn't go well because the girl who has been part of this and was really looking forward to play Jesus' mother um, did something to my dress. And this was my first church hurt because she really wanted to play this thing and she completely destroyed my dress and I couldn't play. And she was like, I know all the lines, which Mary doesn't even have a line in this thing. Anyway, so after I had my child, I think I was just longing for something. So I kind of took myself to a church, but older sisters, some of them have been involved into churches, and every feedback that I was getting was very judgmental, right? It was about how my hair looked or how I was getting dressed and stuff like that. Because Christianity in Africa is very much filtered through the lens of colonialism and then cultured afterwards through the lens of culture. So what you're receiving really, it's not the loving relationship with Christ, is whatever this person thinks your outfit should be before you can enter a church on a Sunday. So I wanted to go to church, but I didn't want to go to a church where I'll be judged. Yeah, I've come a long way. So I kind of started going to church like that. And eventually, God really did a big miracle with one of my sisters who was sick, and we've lost everything that we had. I was running my own business and literally working to help take care of her because she got so sick. They thought she had all the things on earth and that she was eventually going to die. And somebody approached me and she's like, "Yeah, I've seen that you kind of go to church on a Sunday, but um, prayer can heal your sister." And so we took her to a prayer camp, and she was miraculously healed by Christ. And I think very clearly that that was my first moment of going, yes, I know, like, this is true, and this is what I want to do. So I got really involved into church and serving and preaching and going to prison ministry and things like that prior to me moving to America. So when I moved to America, and you've been in Africa too, you've seen this, like how church works there and how prayer is done, and night vigils and all these other stuff. And I was really looking forward to seeing that in America, thanks to the movies as well. I would like wanted people to dance on one foot. None of that. I could not see any church like that. So I was very disappointed, to say the least. How can church doesn't look like church on TV? And so that kind of got me down in a pad. But to answer your question, like that very moment there of my sister being healed is what got me to really diving into my faith and start getting trained and finding myself in the presence of God and folks that I really wanted to be under their leadership.
And was there a particular group that you connected with early on, or
Evangelical.
okay,
Evangelical. I mean, but I think over here, what would they be called? I think it's Pentecostal.
yeah,
Yeah, something like that.
hmm,
Yeah, the fiery folks.
yeah, yeah. My experience in Ethiopia was that every denomination looked Pentecostal. Like the
It's so
Men-
true.
the Mennonites looked Pentecostal, the Baptists looked Pentecostal, the
Yeah.
Pentecostals Pentecostal.
Yeah. So when I moved here and folks would be like, "Oh, are you a Presbyterian or are you a this?" I'm
Yeah,
like,
right.
"What is that? Doesn't everybody just cast out demons and just fall in church? That's what we all do over there. Like,
Yeah,
it's just a different looking building. That's it."
Yes, yes. And you got to
Um,
kick the dust up, man. You got to jump up and down on those dirt floors, and uh,
yes,
I've
I
done
was
I've done that
talking.
many times actually. So
Well, so you'll love this. I was talking to a woman who just got back from, I think Uganda or someplace, actually a smaller country than that. But she just got back, and she said what they will do is they will put like a tarp on the floor. And I was like, how do you do this? Because all this stepping in the dust, and
yeah.
so they're finding solutions for the dust. I think you and I will appreciate that.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. All right.
Yeah.
So you're in America. You're connected to church. You're doing hair. What happens to get you the nonprofit that you run is called the Carrot School Project.
Yeah.
So
You can say KSP for short.
KSP,
Yeah.
Carrot School Project.
Yes.
Tell us, get us to that, to your nonprofit. When did that start? How did you get a vision for that?
Yeah, I did. But before I got a vision, so remember one of my sisters get healed, and I'm just completely sold out for Jesus. And then I moved here and really just experienced all these life challenges that I'm sure every immigrant goes through, how to get my paperwork on track, learning the language. I came from a French speaking country to completely everything. So going back to school at night to get a degree to be able to work here, um, paperwork. My son joined me, and I'm now raising a kid by myself. And in the midst of all of this, is just like one challenge after another. One of my sisters just passes away. She just leaves this earth. And I remember being just so crushed. It was just, I mean, every challenge leading to that point, I've just been like, you know what, it's going to be okay. And then this happens. And so I wake up one morning, and I think this was back in my Facebook beginning days. And I'm like, I'm no longer Christian. I'm no longer, like, it's like everything else out there. I'm just going to go on my own journey, and I'm going to do whatever I want to be doing. So that got me on a completely different journey out there, trying out a whole bunch of other things, which I honestly feel like everybody should go on their own journey and just anyway. So that happened, and then eventually, let me see. I'm trying to think about like how I came kind of back to Christianity, just really figuring out like deep inside of me that this is really where I fit. This is, what gives me the backbone to stand and to be strong. And so that's kind of how I came back to it. And when my son graduated high school and he was going off to college, so I went to school, got a degree, was working as a teacher part-time and a childcare provider for rich folks, which I live in an area with a lot of it. I was doing that part-time, and then I left to go work with one family. And with all of this, I'm thinking, do I really want this to be how my life ends? And then my son goes off to college, and I think a year and a half before that happens, I had a health scare myself, right? And so, kind of going through a year of blood transfusion, cancer testing, all the above to see, and just really having this hard conversation with my son because it's only the two of us here. Like, if you wake up one morning and mommy is not responding anymore, like, here's your passport, here's the auntie to call, and here's how you stay here or get out of here, whatever the plan is. And eventually I got better. And then he's going off to college, and I'm thinking, am I just here to just clock in at work and catch a check and pay my bills? Like, I mean, it's pretty sweet. A lot of immigrants know, like, your entire family depends on you almost. But I just really felt like there was more. And so I really just started praying to God. I'm like, please give me my mission. Like, what am I to be doing? And so this is really how the Care School Project was really birthed, right? Out of everything else I was doing was just really small and very, spread out. But I felt really like this was on my heart, and God just wanted me to um, share my story and just put it out there in a way that could bless a child like myself, or a single mother like myself, or an immigrant like myself, if and when they need it. Because one of the things I realized in my journey was that throughout a lot of my challenges, and even throughout a lot of my life, like when I aspire to big things, there was never a model for me to look at and say, you know what, they've done this, or they're here. Let me kind of track what they did. And so this, I felt like, was a call for me to be able to bless other folks in that way. So that's how the Care School Project was created, and that's what I hope that we're doing.
What
I don't know.
year did you launch the Carrot School Project?
So the Care School Project was officially launched on March 16, 2018.
2018. Okay.
Yep.
Wow. All right. So then what's the vision? What's the mission? The vision or mission, however, whichever you want to pick.
So the goal of this is really to create a platform where children who do not have access to education, because that is the number one thing that changed my life and continue to do so. Children who do not have access to education can come into a safe space and get educated by being loved upon by a group of folks and teachers that are strong believers and can share the love of Christ under this platform, under this format of education. And so we launched it by opening a campus in Cote d'Ivoire. We got 17 students off the street, off labor. We even had a girl that has been married off at age 9 or 8 or whatever, pulled her out of there. And now we have 17 students and teachers. I think at the time we had 6 teachers. And I've promised all these students 2 meals a day. These teachers need a salary. I promised the teachers that they will eat at the school as well, so they didn't have to worry about that kind of stuff. And we opened the door.
So you opened the door in 2018?
Yes, in October 2018.
This is in which city?
So this is right on the skirt of Abidjan, and Abidjan is the capital. This is where you land if and when we go to Cote d'Ivoire.
Yeah, you fly into this place.
Yeah.
So did you purchase or lease a facility?
Yeah, so we leased the facility. This man was building this place to rent it as separate apartments. And so what they do is that they build an alignment of doors. So he had 5 doors. Mm-hmm. And so I rented it and I signed a contract with him that will allow me to take off some walls and make them into bigger rooms to make this into a school. And so we fixed the walls. There was no flooring. We fixed all of that. I bought the chairs and the tables and shipped it over there. At some point when there was just a brick building, so we needed to kind of make the walls look okay. And then we needed to paint the walls. And I was like, there's no money left. So we went and bought the product, and I'm standing over there and I'm painting these walls. And I remember painting walls is something that I always fantasize about. I kind of saw myself in an overall, corduroy, cute looking thing, painting cute walls. That was not the case. There was mess everywhere. Anyway, so we painted walls, put tables, and voila, there was a school.
And what ages?
So because we're a nonprofit and we are catering to children who are being labored or, trafficked of some sort, we cover anything between the ages of 5 to 14.
Okay.
So the educational level is elementary educational level, but we have teenagers because they've never been in school and they've been working in a cacao farm since they were 5 or 6 or 7, and we can still take them and give them a baseline of education.
You're working in a what kind of farm?
So the cacao farm industry, so we get good chocolate bars. That is oftentimes because kids are working to make the cocoa. Yeah, the cocoa. And coffee is also a big thing.
Like basically child labor to do this stuff. And going to school. And then that's one of the places where Yeah. So where do the kids stay at night?
So the model
You're
that we
giving them
have,
education and 2 meals.
yeah,
Are they still staying with their family or extended family or
yes.
parents or something like that?
They have to. So when we find a child, if we found a girl, for example, selling items on the street or working in the farm or whatever, we go back to whomever she's living with. It could be a parent, a grandparent, an aunt or uncle, because the services that we have are actually wrapped around services, which means the child gets into a classroom, but the parent, mostly the mother or the aunt or the grandmother of that child, also is entered into a program with us, right? And so currently we're doing agricultural training for the community. We're doing health training, reading and writing. So the health training has reproduction and women cancer and all of that. So there's classes that they attend. And there's also a financial education that they get to partake in. So they get enrolled into a 6 month program while their child is going to school.
Oh,
Because one of the reasons why folks will subject their children to either early marriage or labor or traffic of some sort is that they're often trying. So, okay, these children are income providers of their families. That's why they're where they are. And
okay.
so taking them off, it's a solution, but it's not a sustainable solution for the child and the family. So if you want to assure the safety of that child, you need to also look at the family structure and make sure that you're giving them something. And so the agricultural training, for example, provides food for the school, for the families that are involved in the community. And it also gives them a skill that they can use to secure a job or grow something for themselves that they can sell later, which then brings in income.
Okay. Oh, fascinating. Like how, like, do you have a team of people there on the ground that screen and place and do interviews with the families and all of that kind of stuff? Like you must have
Um,
a team of people, right? Or an individual or
we do. We have a very robust team that we have been growing over the last 5 years. Our first director, which was actually my sister, one of my sisters, she's not a director anymore, but we do have a director. So our current director, she was actually here in America to visit not too long ago. She is a PhD in sociology, Marie Yvette. And so from the beginning, he had a vetting process. And this was by myself being curious, but it kind of created a robust screening process. So first we do an interview, and then second we do a home visit, which is we go to where the child live and we talk to folks on the market or on the farm or the whatever they were working at. We gather information and then we meet as a team later and decide, okay, this girl is actually in greater danger, or this one child here really needs to be pulled over here. And every year we recruit kids like that.
interesting, interesting. And then, so like if a kid comes into your school at, let's say, 5 or 6 or 7, you take them
Yeah,
young.
we'll take them.
Would they continue in your school till what age? How many years would they be in the school?
So if they're coming as since or 7 years old, we're hoping that we will have them for at least 4 years.
Okay.
And so the last 4 years, we've been testing this theory that we have that if you give children a hands-on learning experience, whatever they're supposed to learn in 6 years, they can learn it in 4 years. And last year, our first group did take the countrywide standardized test. They still do that there, and they passed it. And these were 10 out of the first 17 kids that we've taken. So, a child that used to work as a mechanic, we had him. And so now we can say with confidence that in 4 years of school year round education, we can filter a child from a plantation into the next level of education that is beyond elementary education.
Okay, cool. So tell us where you came up with the name, the Kara School Project, KSP. Give
Yeah.
us what the idea behind that.
So I personally believe that each child has the capacity to shine. They're all diamonds that, because I was that child, really. I feel like everything that the Care School Project is doing, and the Care School Project works in Cote d'Ivoire in West Africa, but we also work here in the Silicon Valley with youth and children who are experiencing housing and financial insecurity. And we advocate for them to be in school districts, to receive programs and all the things that they need to empower them for better education. And so I feel like,
I didn't
yes, go
realize
ahead.
you're also working in San Francisco.
Yeah, so we work in the so the Care School Project is working in the Silicon Valley, and this was our local initiative, which we started in the middle of COVID. If you ever visit us, or for the folks who have been around here, around Stanford University and what have you, you see people park in RVs, and these RVs are not travelers or people looking to, travel around. It really is folks who are trying to get a living around here, but because it's such an expensive area, they're experiencing housing insecurity and they end up renting these RVs and they live in there. And so it's predominantly Spanish speaking, single moms who live in these homes with anything between 3 to 5 kids.
Wow.
And so, yeah, so in the middle of COVID, I stumbled upon a family and I asked them if they wanted a book. I said, hey, because I was designing curriculum for my school in Africa. And so I asked this child to say, hey, would you be interested if I bring you books and coloring materials and math sheets? And the mom, this was a mom with 3 kids. She didn't speak any English. I don't speak any Spanish. So the teenager was translating it between the mom and myself. After I asked them what they were doing there, they look at me like, who the heck are you? We live here. And I'm thinking, whoa, okay. Anyway, so I asked them if they wanted that. They said yes. And this launched our local initiative. And we spent 18 months giving tablets, connectivity material, books. We gave them food cards so that they can be able to get a warm meal. Because when you live in an RV that is broken down, you don't have access to water, you don't have access to cooking. And so when there's no school, the kids are hungry. So this program has evolved. Anyway, so both here in the Silicon Valley and in Ivory Coast, what we're doing is basically providing the help I wish I had. And so again, I just believe that every child is a diamond that needs to just be put into the right place and the right kind of love, and they will shine. And we've seen that happens on both here in America as it has in Africa. And so that was the thinking behind the carrot, right? A carrot of diamond, a carrot of gold. And I felt like, well, if we say just a carrot with, the seed, like it would be easy, but it's also a nonprofit. So you don't own a nonprofit, right? So eventually you'll get a board that will kick you out and they'll say, founder, take your, go home. And so I felt like, well, if that happens, then they'll still have a piece of me. So my last name starts with a K. So I moved the C, I put a K over there. I'm pretty smart. We're good to go. And then one day I'm having a conversation with somebody and they're like, yeah, a higher value of a carat of diamond actually starts with a K. And I was like, man, my story is no longer interesting.
Yeah.
Because it has a better mathematical value.
Right.
So this is how we got the Kara School project. And I really wanted, the question I get a lot is, why not the Kara School? And the answer to that is the Care School just alludes to one school that is in the place and it's done. But the Care School project is a project that allows, through education, for us to be able to look at how the mothers are being considered within the program itself, or how things are happening. Like, in the United States, the program we run here, we don't have a school. So it's a project, right? So that part was really important to me, that we don't stick it to one place, either to one person or one place or one time.
Yeah. So tell me about the documentary that is now going around the film festivals. So you have it's a documentary on your life called Fear Not, right? And by the way, what's the website? What's your website? How can people find Carrot School Project? And then tell us about the documentary.
Okay, so Fear Not, the documentary, can be found on our website. There's a whole page dedicated to that. And the website is the
By the way, I tried to
KSP.
watch it, and you can't watch it yet, right?
No, you can only see the trailer.
Right. I saw the trailer, and I kept trying to find how I could watch it, but right now it's only being released in film festivals, right?
Yes, it is only being released in film festival. So I get my 5 seconds of feeling like a celebrity there. Yeah, you can only see me in select places. But if you go to the KSP.org, that's THEKSP for Paul.org, you can find out about myself and what we do both here and internationally, and Fear Not, and some of the things that I have done. Because another thing that people don't know about me is that I'm also a children's books author. Which is, again, all part of this as a mission, putting the story out there and really showing girls, especially brown girls, that the challenges that we live today, because every human has a challenge, it really is a key to how we can change the world. And that's everything that I am as a leader. Today, when I go to service the RV families, we go around there a lot during summer with water so that they can have clean, drinkable water. I chat with the mothers in my broken Spanish, and I often tell them, I know poverty because I grew up in poverty, but I don't know what it feels like to live in an RV because I never had to, right? But I've been a single mother who didn't know how to get her child in college. I've been a single mother who didn't know what were the programs that were around to help my kid do better in school. And so if I'm in Côte d'Ivoire, I was that girl that couldn't go to school because she was a girl and needed to be cooking with mom so that she can get married early. And I can tell now these moms that education will change your child's life. It will change your life, and it will change the next generation, because I have a child who is back in school for his PhD now, because one person educated just changes the whole demographic for the future generation. So anyways, go to the website, whole bunch of fun stuff, I believe so, and you can keep track of everything, because a lot of things happen around here, a lot.
So the documentary Fear Not is premiering in film festivals right now.
It is. We're going to be, this very weekend, we're going to be at the Silicon Valley African Film Festival.
Okay. Very cool.
And I think next we're also going to be, it's showing in Florida somewhere. I won't be there, but it's showing in Florida. And it's also showing locally here at the UN Association Film Festival as well. So.
And do you sometimes show up at these film festivals?
I do. I just got back from LA, and here I got an award and I brought it back home myself.
Yes. Tell us about it.
Yeah, I did. About what? The film or the award?
The award.
Which one?
There were both, but yeah.
So the film is, so Annette King, who started the Splicer Film Company, she again wants to highlight local heroes, unsung heroes, who are doing big things and nobody knows about. So she did her first documentary on Mike Montage, and she was presenting, I think, the trailer at the local Kiwanis Club. And when she was done speaking, 3 or 4 folks got up and they're like, "If you ever met a girl named Evelyne Keomian, you should meet her." So see, people talk about me in my back, and I love it.
Yeah, right.
Because it gets me in rooms like right here with you, Fred, and it gets me to Fiona. So she emails me, and I think at the time I was back in Ivory Coast. So I got back and connected with her, and she says, "Hey, can I follow you around when you're doing things?" And I was like, "Sure." So during the summer camp that year, she followed me and kind of filmed on her cell phone, and she told her entire team, she goes, "We have got to move this to production." And so they started following me around here as I do work locally. And then last year, when I was flying to Ivory Coast, they flew a cinematographer there as well. And they hired some local folks and had the whole team going, and they were running. That's one thing that they all still talk about, how fast Evelyne Keomian moves and how nobody can keep track of her. So,
Right.
but apparently they were able to do so, and they put it together in a very meaningful way. I mean, I've seen this documentary before they finish up the production, but I remember just sitting in that room in LA last weekend, and it came on, and I could not hold my tears. And I had a few friends, a few local folks who flew there to see the movie, and nobody's makeup remained intact by the time we were done. So I think they've told the story in the way that I will never be able to do myself.
Wow. That's cool.
Yeah.
Then you won an award.
And I did. I did.
Tell us about your award.
I did. So apparently I'm now a humanitarian award. Yeah. You're talking to an award-winning humanitarian.
That is awesome.
Whatever that even feels like. But,
this was from the North Hollywood Film Festival.
Yes.
And they awarded you their humanitarian award. Is that right?
Yes, they did.
That's awesome.
And Gustavo, the man who runs this thing, he was able to do a speech before they even announced the award. And he said that they've never given out this award before, but after reviewing Fear Not and Finding Ubuntu, the other documentary that was showing, they just really felt like beyond the quality of the production, the folks in the documentary needed to be acknowledged. And so they felt like they really needed to make it a point to let the world know what we're doing. So I thought that was very meaningful and very sweet. And yeah, I cried during the showing. I tried my best not to cry during the award. And I think I was successful. I don't know.
That's awesome. So how long before we can watch it on, like how long before I'm going to see this? If I don't,
I don't know. Maybe we're coming to a film festival near you very soon. And the Splicer Film team, it's incredible. So
we have in Kansas.
Exactly. If you guys have a film festival in Kansas,
we've got
please let us know.
And one that they do that Adam does at the Screenland.
See, there you go. Let's talk to Adam.
Get there though. That's like a B film. Horror film. We have runs a horror film fest in Kansas City.
Hey, I think Fear Not might fit right in there.
There's more than that one. But anyway,
I think Fear Not might fit right in there. So there you go. But yeah.
Well, that's
so. How about this? We'll say coming near you soon.
Right, coming near you soon. Fear Not. All right.
Yes.
Well, that's amazing. Thanks so much for taking time out of your schedule to be with us on Spirituality Adventures. And I love hearing stories like this. They're inspirational to me. And it's, you come from such a challenging background, and to see how God can transform that and use all of that to touch people and bring goodness and beauty and love to these places that are under-resourced, and it's beautiful. Thanks for I like to say thanks for being the hands and feet of Jesus, right?
Yeah, well, thank you. That's literally what we're trying to do over here. And thank you, Fred, to you and your entire team for what you guys are doing. So I have been listening to Spirituality Adventure on YouTube.
Okay.
Now is one of the things that I'm listening to, and I really love the diversity of voices that you guys are bringing to the table. And I remember the last episode I was listening to, I, kind of got choked up a little bit. And I was like, oh my God, can I actually do this podcast? Had my little moment there, like, whoa, this guy is big thing. So I'm glad that you guys.
Did you hear the one with, I just released last week, one with Don Stevens, who's the founder of Mercy Ships.
Oh, I haven't. Oh my God, I have to go.
1978. He's in his 80s now. But that was really fascinating. These are floating hospitals that ports in Africa and do free surgeries, dental health services, to the under-resourced all around Africa and some in Asia too. But check that one out.
Wow, look how incredible that is. Yeah, I have to go check it out. You get so many incredible voices and incredible journeys, and it's so encouraging to see that. Because oftentimes we go through these things, especially with our spirituality, where we either can say it in half the places we are, or we think it's just us. And I just really feel like coming on here, I could say, you know what? I haven't been all Jesus-y my whole life. In fact, I've went down this route and then came back here. So thank you for creating a safe space and a pretty cool space, I think.
All right. Well, let's see here. Matt, we're going to check out film festivals in Kansas City. See if we can find a place for Fear Not. That would be fun. Anyway, but yeah, thanks so much for
that. Would be fun. That would be fun.
Thanks for all the work that you're doing. And again, just say one more time the website so that people can find you.
TheCareerSchoolProject.org. THEKSP.org.
THEKSP.org. Evelyne?
Yes, the Care School Project.
Keomian. Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for tuning into Spirituality Adventures. We'll see you next time.
Au revoir. Thank you.
Hey, you made it to the end. Thanks for listening all the way through on this episode. By the way, if you're not already a supporter, go to spiritualityadventures.com, sign up for one of our monthly supports, and you will receive our bonus content. You'll receive lots of interesting information about our guests. Many of our musicians will do special bonus songs and record a song. So I want to encourage you to do that. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Be sure and subscribe. Be sure and share any of the episodes that you like. And be sure and make comments if you like them as well. This helps us get Spirituality Adventures out there to more listeners, more watchers. So whatever platform you're using, subscribe, like, share, make comments, and go to our website, sign up for our team, and be a part of the team support. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.